All right, for this video, I wanted to do a quick run through of a very common notice I'm seeing now for taxpayers, and it's the IRS CP79A notice. So CP79 capital A tax notice from the IRS. So I want to run through what does this notice mean, who is likely going to receive this notice, and what do you need to do if you get this in the mail. So I'm going to talk about this notice in the context of the child tax credit. Now, the reason why I'm going to talk about this one specifically is because what you'll see is that the CP79A notice can actually be attributed to a couple of different types of tax credits. So the notice can be issued with regard to the earned income tax credit, the child tax credit or the additional child tax credit, which is a component of the CTC, or the education credits, right? Specifically the American Opportunity Tax Credit. So what are the differences between all of these and how does this all work together? Well, firstly, I think it's important to highlight initially the difference between the CP79 Cap A notice, which is what we're talking about here, and the CP74 notice. So these kind of go hand in hand, but you'll get these a number of years apart. So what's the big difference, right? So if you had any of these tax credits disallowed in a prior year, you probably got a 79A notice, right? So the 79A notice means that the IRS has conducted an investigation of your return and they determined that you weren't eligible to claim one of these credits, right? That's the long and the short of it. Now, in future years, if you get a CP74 notice, that means that, okay, in a prior year, you got a 79A notice, you had a credit disallowed, you waited during the waiting period, you filed the claim again for whatever the current year you were eligible to claim, the CTC or the EIC or whatever it might be, and the IRS approved the claim. All right. So again, scaling back to what we're talking about here, we're talking about the 79A notice. So again, if you receive the 79A notice, the IRS has looked at your return for the year in question, and they determined that the claim, so let's talk about the child tax credit, they determined that your CTC claim should be denied because you recklessly or intentionally disregarded the rules or regulations surrounding these claims. And that's important because the language suggests that there was something that you did was beyond just a mere math or clerical error, right? So what is an improper claim for the CTC? So if you got this notice, they denied your claim, you're already well aware of that at this point, I presume. And so they denied the claim, again, not for math or clerical error. It had to be a reckless or intentional disregard of whatever the rules or regulations are. And so what I see most commonly are these two issues here, right? So you're claiming a child that might be your dependent, right, under different rules, but they're not a qualifying child for the CTC purposes, right? So there's different rules that apply between what is a dependent and then what is a qualifying child for the child tax credit. Also, what if you didn't follow the rules because you, again, intentionally or recklessly disregarded the rules around what meets the residency or support tests for your qualifying child? I see this all the time. So if you have parents that are not together anymore, so either they were never married or they're married and now divorced and they split custody, each parent will often try to kind of rush to see who can claim the child first in order to claim the dependency exemptions and all the child tax credits. And what often happens is the parent that maybe rushes to judgment and doesn't really think about these things incorrectly claims the child and they have violated some of these rules, right? So they didn't meet the residency test. They didn't meet the support test. And so for those reasons, the IRS just flat out comes out and says, look, you don't meet these tests. You don't meet these standards. The other parent does. That's what I see very, very often. Now, if you get this 79A notice, what happens is you get a 2-year ban generally on when you can claim the credit. So what that means is for the next 2 years, even if you qualified, so you meet all the tests, you can't claim the credit because you're basically being penalized. So it's only after that 2-year ban can you then reclaim the credit. And in order to do so, you file the Form 8862. And then when you file your 1040 with the 8862, that's when you get the IRS CP74 notice. So the CP74 notice is a confirmation that you filed the 1040, you filed the 8862, the IRS agrees that you had a previous ban, but now the window is passed, and so now you're able to claim the child tax credit once again. Now again, these notices apply to the earned income credit, the child tax credit, or the ACTC, or the American Opportunity Tax Credit, right? So for education credit. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, obviously feel free to leave me a comment below. Happy to answer any questions I can. And I look forward to seeing you again on the next video. Thank you.